know Tony well, but I think incredibly highly of him. I hold him in very high regard, and so rather than read a long bio, what I want to do is just tell you some of the things I know about Tony. And here is what I know. Tony is a serial entrepreneur, a serial philanthropist. He's got over 100 patents to his name. He's founded a number of companies, and I saved the best one for last. He served our country in the United States Army. Tony founded a company called Solera in 2005, and he moved that business to Dallas. I was living in Dallas at the time. I did not know Tony, but everyone in the DFW Metroplex knew Solera. It was an exciting company, it was growing fast. Everyone was aware of it. Ultimately, Tony led that business to a $1 billion IPO in 2007. Grew that business to over 7,000 employees doing business in over 90 countries. There's a lot more, but I want to fast forward to today. Today, Tony is the chairman and CEO of Canoo. Most of you know, Canoo is a manufacturer of electric vehicles. Canoo went public last year by merging with a SPAC. We all know the knock you always hear on SPACs is their founders don't have enough skin in the game and there's not shareholder alignment as a result. And to that, what I would say is not this SPAC and not this CEO. Through a couple of transactions, Tony has now acquired over 30% of the outstanding shares of Canoo. He's doubled down and bet heavily with his own money on his vision for this company. So talk about alignment with shareholders. You have it here with this company and with this CEO. Tony and I had a chance to meet earlier this year. Canoo ran a national search to determine where they were going to locate their next manufacturing plant. And I had a terrific opportunity to spend time with Tony, to meet his team, a terrific first-class, world-class team, highly impressive. And Governor Stitt and I, along with others, Secretary Wagner, folks from GRDA, our friends from Mid-America Industrial Park, we worked hard to convince them that Oklahoma was the right place for them. At the same time, I, the governor, and Oklahoma are making a bet on Canoo and on Tony that we can strike a partnership that's going to work great for all sides. So they did choose Oklahoma. They're building their manufacturing facility at Mid-America Industrial Park in Pryor, Oklahoma, right near the Google facility we heard a bunch about this morning. Once that plant is operating, once it's producing vehicles, they'll be providing livelihoods for over 2,000 Oklahoma families. And I can assure you that this is just the first of what's going to be many exciting announcements with Tony and with his companies here in Oklahoma in the years to come. So it's a big deal for Oklahoma. It's a big deal for Oklahoma families who are going to get high quality, high paying jobs. And it's a big deal for Oklahoma taxpayers. So without further ado, my friend, Tony Aquila. I didn't see this. That's what I would have done to call attention.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for inviting us today to share with you a bit about electrification and how it works with fossil fuel technologies and efficient technologies that are moving through the system. EV is just a way to the next evolution. And, you know, I've been in the automotive industry for a long time. I've built companies. We were the first in tech. And I remember the days going to the OEMs and saying, hey, these are technology platforms. And they kind of looked at me and laughed. The extent was an infotainment or a radio. But we developed a technology company that really started to pull all the data together. And that company was a company Scott was referring to. became the world leader, and we had the privilege of employing over 7,000 people. Started in my garage, and I've kind of lived in the space of being an innovator. And so, it's a lonely space usually, because when you have a new idea or something, most people, it's not really in their mainstream, so they don't really identify with it. But these trends are big. In big business, lightning just doesn't strike twice. You got to be there, and you got to get in the game. And so around 2016, we were really migrating aggressively into the electric, efficient fuel cell technology side, because we could see, coming out of where we did on the data side, that electric mathematically was going to win. And just like when the efficient engine, fuel injection, ABS, all these things, if you do the math, you can kind of move where the puck is going. So we're big investors. Obviously, we're like many of the people in Oklahoma that have made their wealth. You bet big. And so we're betting big here. And this is just a little video about how American this is. I mean, I've been privileged to get where I have gotten. And I think you all hit this point where you just want to kind of like make your country the strongest you can, especially at a time right now. And I encourage everyone to look at where it's made, who it's made by, and how good of a product it is. And in that category, we mean something, and we have something, and we've lost some things, but we don't have to lose like we did 5G. So this is a chance to really win again in America. That's how we see it. So whether it be, our colleagues from Aquila that was speaking, I mean, we're supportive of this whole change, and hopefully all of you will, because it actually helps transition the market. But this vehicle we're going to show you is less than 4% of it is coming out of China. We've had to work hard. Hundreds of engineers have worked very hard to keep the price affordable and to keep it American or allied nation built. It's something we're very proud of. We believe that's going to be a very important thing. And from a national security perspective, it's going to be big, because with technology in vehicles, we'll talk about micro hacking, and we'll talk about ransomware and the things that are inbound on vehicles and how it can sabotage business. I think we actually have this out of sequence, but it was a video, actually.
We see an electric vehicle for all of us. For the contractor, for the small business owner, for the fleet operator, for the next generation. We see something that is part of everyday life, for everyday America. And what was once just a lifestyle vehicle is now a pickup truck, a multi-purpose delivery vehicle, a new way to explore, entirely engineered by Canoo. For the first owner, the second, the third, the fourth. We see functional design, productivity, and affordability. We see cleaner air, more space, more return on investment. That's how we're building electric vehicles for everyone. Canoo.
So, electric vehicles have a profound impact on a household. And I always tell everybody, at Canoo, we're building vehicles for people who wear socks and get them dirty. Because the people that are spending lots of money on transportation is most likely not you. It's the working people. It's the people that build and take care of our country and do all the jobs that go, because they drive more. What's worse about it is, if you look at this video or this picture here, you'll see that most of those vehicles are 3 and 4 generation old vehicles, and those people are driving 4 to 6 times more than you per day, which means their cost per mile is higher. And that is a big impact on a household. And electric has the ability to put $50,000 to $80,000 of return on capital into a household. And so that's why the math is really changing, but you had to engineer a vehicle that could be built affordably and could last. So it wasn't cheap, but it was strong and it was affordable, just like the American industry did for so long ago. And when you look at, kind of what's being put into the emissions, 72% of that is coming from, the automotive side. So there's a big impact here. And those are the working people are the ones that can actually fix a lot of the ecological impact. And when you think about it, they're running down to O'Reilly's and Advanced Auto Parts, and they're having to spend more to keep their vehicles running because they're buying 2nd and 3rd generation vehicles. But all that money's going to China because that's where all those parts come from. And so we were like, let's stop this. Because if you think back in history, when any country, for those of you who come from other countries, when you saw an American car roll across the road, that was our sovereignty. That was our innovation, that was our strength, and we were respectable, and it lasted. We then got caught up in a game of cost over quality, and that's something that's a tenet at all our companies is quality is first, and return on capital for the customer comes before ours. And when you do that, you can build big, strong companies. And so that's really at the heart of it. But this is a mathematical equation. We're heading at the point where evolution occurs in any industry at 2%. Everybody starts talking about, oh, will they make it? They'll fail. Then it starts to get to 20%, and then they go, well, these guys will fail. 8 out of 10 will. But the reality of it is the whole industry has now decided to change. And you are hitting that 20%, which means not that fossil fuel dies and goes away. It just means the math flips. So where electric was 2%, now it's moving to 20%. Eventually it's going to get to 80%, but it will not take the 100. So it's not like oil and gas is going to go away. So, I kind of cry a bit of BS that it's a 0-1 game. It's not. It's a transition, and it's math. So if you kind of look at how the strength of mobility is, it's changing. But what's really concerning, which is why we're built in America, technology from America, we really are very focused on cybersecurity, because I can hack your fleet vehicles, and I can know your customer base. I can know how you deliver. I can know everything. And most of those parts from all these OEMs have gone to cost, and they decentralized it. And so I wanted to be in a company and to lead a company and own a significant part of a company that had the ability to build the tech stack. Because just like the math I gave you, where, mechanical was 80%, 98%, and technology was 2%. It's moved to 20%, but it's moving to 80%. The whole thermal management system, we drive this vehicle, it's the first vehicle, where we're driving it by wire, we're braking it by wire, we're harmonized, articulated, redundant systems, just like a G5 aircraft. Same thing. And that eliminates a lot of parts. A lot of those parts come from China. That's how you keep the cost down. But this thing is growing, and the average age vehicle is 12 years in the US. And that's going to come down as the vehicle fleet rotates. And as that comes down, it's only going to bounce back up. I anticipate it'll get into the 15-year range after it comes down into the 7-8-year range. So that kind of gives you a bit of a story of the impact on fuel. You've got 84 million vehicles annually, but the thing that really nobody pays attention to is $1 trillion is going into the aftermarket. Most of that money is going to China for those parts. I don't know how many of you have a car hobby or whatever, if you've been to O'Reilly or advanced or anything, you buy your parts, where's it made? It's not made here. And so we want to bring all that back. So we wanted to bring a vehicle that we could meet the American needs, it could be upfitted, and it could be changed, because the engine we design and are building on our own, we'll build it in Pryor, has 70 moving parts. A typical engine has 800. We have 70 pieces. It'll fit in a Toomey suitcase, and it's 200 pounds, and it'll knock out 350 horsepower, 300 pounds of torque. I mean, that is going to be someday, these type of technologies will be weapons grade, because your ability to move and use energy from the sun and to be able to store it with technologies like graphene and lithium, all came here. But if you just kind of look at the math, all the money in automotive today, do you realize where all the profit is? All the profit in a car's life, from the day it rolls off the factory to the day it goes to the salvage yard, 80% of all profitable dollars sit with owners 2, 3, and 4. So you tell me where the money's going. One of the reasons why our industry is weak is because it doesn't know how to retain the capital. It doesn't know how to give the customer the right experience. And so we basically, being very analytical tech guys out of automotive, we took the best of everything and we engineered. And we also are out of aviation. So we're just merging all of this together to build a new kind of mobility. And if you look at the math, the market opportunity speaks for itself. I mean, if you just kind of look at the latest trends, every data cube that's out there is wrong because it keeps going up. People now want that electric vehicle. They want that electric vehicle because it's quiet. Actually, people care more about the environment than ever, but it gives them a return on capital. Fuel costs are variable. It affects small businesses at a massive level. And it really doesn't kind of help the grid. We all talked about earlier, we heard them talking about the storm in Texas. I lived in Texas during the storm. My house is still not repaired. That freeze pulverized us. And if I had my electric vehicles plugged into that house, it would have powered that house for 3 days because it's bi-directional. Not only do you get a car, you get a generator, you get a backup power supply. You get the ability to put power back in the grid. And so it's a completely different kind of technology. Just like we made the leap with injections and all these other things, this is just another leap. And so you can sit there and say, will they make it, will they not, what will happen? But the mathematics are the mathematics. And so you can see, if you look at, by the year 2040, 60% of the demand is going to be EV. Now I'm going to talk about the US. We're a little still behind. We're not as bold as I'd like to see us. But the transition will be the transition. And when you look at how many vehicles that is, that means we got to produce 50 million vehicles a year by the year 2040. There's a lot of room to go around. And that's why the traditional OEMs are panicking, because we got a supply and demand. So if you think post-World War II, how many car manufacturers were there when there was a big evolution change? Because military technology rolled into our civilian lives. Same thing's happening here. So we have a whole bunch of stuff shifting. There's billions of dollars on ESG. It is the time to kind of make a difference. And for every job in electric you create, and it will be in everything, electrification and microchip technologies, data, all that stuff is just going crazy. You create 4 to 7 jobs. That's the communities you build, and which is one of the things I would tell you, y'all are sitting on a gold mine here. I left Silicon Valley after building up my tech companies, and I went to Texas. Governor Perry recruited me to come there. I had 2,500 people at the time, and I was scared as hell to go to Texas, because when I went there and said, hey, we're going to build a tech hub here, people were like, what do you mean by tech? And it was the same oil and gas kind of logic. But today, Texas is boomtown, and we did really well there. And we're coming here because we think this is the next big boomtown. And we think you guys are sitting on a gold mine. You got the sunshine. You're in the middle of the country. You've got the land, and you have the wildcatter attitude, which is really important to be entrepreneurs. So I think actually it will become fabric here as we mix it together. And look, the education system, I've been super impressed with OU and OSU. And if you're building in new technologies, you've got to work within the education system to get more and more engineers. We're already 740 engineers, and we're growing, and we'll add another couple thousand jobs here in Pryor. So we're pretty focused on it, but it has a very similar feel to when we went to Dallas. Dell was down in Austin, and we said, look, Austin's going to run out of room. It's going to have problems. So we picked Dallas. We took a bigger risk. We're picking here, but if you look at history, the center of the United States is a powerful place, and you all have it. So I just say that to you because I really do think you're going to see a similar trend to what we saw down in Texas. The one thing I would say about the U.S. is we're playing a little too conservative politics, probably more than anything, and I don't want to get into politics. Although I do feel safest in this state talking politics. But the reality of it is the Europeans and the Asians flank us on this change. Look, it's mathematics. It's not going to go away overnight, but we don't want it to go to non-American companies if we don't have to. And all military equipment is going to be on sneak and peak electric because it's fast, it's mobile, it's powerful. You can pull it together as a grid, and you will get eventually weapons grade. So this is all a national security thing, which is where China's big focus is. But we're going to go to 50% by the year 2030, as we heard from President Biden. But yet that's still behind the UK's commitment. It's behind the euro. And by the way, 1/3 of every household in Germany derives its income from the automotive industry. 1/3. So these people that are making these changes, they got bigger math on the table. And we're kind of caught because we are a big, the United States to me is 50 countries under a flag and a currency. And we do that. For us, this is a very regional and US play. So if you just look at the math, I would say I wouldn't panic if I was in oil and gas, but I would certainly be diversified. And just like guys like me, come in, we do this, but this is a mathematical trend. The return on capital for a vehicle that's electric, if you're operating a fleet, you're going to be 3 times more efficient. You're going to have a 3 times better cost factor. And more importantly, you're going to need to protect your data because you're stopping of your vehicle is metadata. I can pull that out of the car and I can know your business. So there's a lot of factors at play here that'll come more and more. And just in the last year, Europe, you go to your Tesla outside in Europe, in certain countries, you got to use Bitcoin to unlock your car because hackers have taken it over. And it's rendered. It's dead. So things are changing. America's got to be more tech and automotive. America is the inventor of tech, in my opinion, having built multiple tech companies and just looking at what we can do. So I'm bold on us and all of us and why we're here and why we're going to invest heavily here. Demand will outstrip supply. It's just math. If anybody's got some really good mathematicians, put them to work on it. If you just look at every corporate company's goals for their emission targets, it's just supply and demand. So you got over 5 million vehicles there. There's just going to be a pure supply problem. There's also going to be a service, maintenance, and repair issue. And so the type and high quality, which is why we chose to not use Chinese parts. They just have a lower quality grade. And we only source from allied nations that have high quality. Why? Because we want to make sure that the second and third owner is getting the big benefit. Because when you have 70 moving parts and you have controlled temperature, you have a thermal management system, you can upgrade over the air. Your efficiency is greater, which means the life of these vehicles is going to go double what we're used to. And that's super important. And there's some really interesting technologies, but we're focused on helping the small business and the states and the infrastructure companies focus first to get on electrification, because those fleets are actually the oldest. As we said to the governor when we came here, you buy new vehicles, you do all that, but you're keeping all these old vehicles, and it actually costs you more. If you move to electric, you get a return on capital. It's the first vehicle since Henry Ford that you can actually get a return on capital rather than depreciating assets. So it's a different game. There's a lot of positive things going behind it. And, you're just going to see the targets move up. When you just look at the math, we're very mathematically driven about all these things. I mean, just the return on capital, the lower gas, there's going to be a different experience. People don't want to just go to the gas station to get gas. Now you can get a spike charge. The technology is moving to where you'll get a 10-minute 80% charge. That's just around the corner. So, it's just the anxiety of range and all that goes away. Those are just blips. Remember when your computer would die after 60 minutes? I mean, all that stuff is just evolution. And you solve those problems. And so, but the big one is, can you build an engine with 70 parts? Can you have it have 350 horsepower, 300 pounds of torque, 200 pounds? Anyone in this room, most people in this room, especially from Oklahoma, could lift it up and put it in. And that is a different game, because an ICE engine is 800 pounds. And it's fighting itself. This is all momentum. You're using the energy for braking. It's just so efficient. So look, from my perspective, there are some things we have to solve, which is charging time. That's underway. And that's a race between us and China. And whoever solves that problem is going to get into military and weapons grade. That's a national security issue. So that's all hands on deck, from my opinion. Range is a byfunction of that. And range is about anxiety. When people were buying gas car vehicles and there wasn't the gas station infrastructure, people had anxiety about it. Just like a guy originally with a horse, when he went and traveled, he had anxiety about water. So we always have some form of anxiety. It's innovation that fixes it, and it's governments and businesses in partnership that build that infrastructure. We need to get stronger there. And affordability is critical to get it to the masses, because they drive more miles. And again, I'd love to see the day where, like when I was young and went abroad, that when you saw an American car, people were like, that's it. Today, this is not it. So who's in there, out there, trying to innovate more? More dollars is coming out of foreign entities than there are American ones. But I think we got to kind of wake up on diversification. I'm not saying, you give up on what you got. I'm saying don't get left behind because you think lightning's going to strike twice, because it's not. And these guys are moving into the infrastructure already. They're challenging their existing business models. I always believe in all my businesses. New tech comes out, I want to be on the forefront of it, even if it eats my own tech's lunch. I'd rather be ahead of it than behind it and trying to defend it. It's expensive and it sucks. So I don't like that. I want to win, but the math is always the math. So for those of you who have the resources and the ability to be playing in the infrastructure, you should. Look, Oklahoma is a lot about people. My father's from Oklahoma, and I've seen this place change a great deal. I think it's only on the beginning side. It's really up to you guys how far it goes into the tech world. But vehicles are going to be 80 and 98% tech and 2 and 20% mechanical. This is why Germany is so afraid, because they're weak on tech. And that's why it's a massive push. And government's getting behind it. By the way, mobility wouldn't have happened in this country if governments didn't get behind it. So, we're very grateful for the reception we got here from Governor Stitt and team, and all the groups and the Mid-America team. I'd put them up against everybody. We baked off 8 states in the final round. And the Mid-America team and Governor Stitt, they just knocked them all out. They had just more vision. They were willing, and they knew energy, right? Because this is just another form, right? It's just another efficient layer, another evolution. And you have the land. Now, our big passion here is to build a factory that you can't see. And to build it within nature, and that's why we like doing it here in the Cherokee Nation area. I think what these people have done from World War II to the munitions plant, all the services that have happened, yet you can still go hunt and fish there. And that says something about how that land has been used and protected. It is in the middle of the country. I think that's why Sam Walton picked Bentonville. You've got a logistics angle. You're at the highest point before it freezes, so you can ship by water, rail, everywhere, and you're pretty well protected. And you get great workforces. You got to build cities. You got to do things. Y'all are doing that. Look at out here. I mean, would you ever thought Oklahoma City would look like this 25 years ago? No, you wouldn't. And if you did, you're probably full of it. But anyways, so what we wanted to do, so here's a little test for you. What is different about any of these pictures? Nothing. And the difference between, by the way, there's automotive factories and prisons in this picture. So if you're a worker, you want to unionize your world, like make them walk to work like it's a prison. That's why they'll unionize against you. Because you make them do the death walk. So, Big Mac's in here. My father's buried not far from there. And I'm just not going to build that kind of factory. We're going to build a factory where people are going to experience nature and we're not going to disturb it. It's going to cost us more money. And, these are problems we're solving. They make a statement. They make a statement about the people of Oklahoma. They make a statement about us, but we're not going to do that. So it may take us a little longer to figure it out because we're actually building it from the nature side in. We don't want the factory to be seen. And like Google and others, we did all this work. We spent all these millions of dollars. And we find out these few spots in the world, in the US, where it made sense to put the factory. And, Google was sitting there. Right? So there's a reason why. And so there's a big opportunity here. And we want to make this Detroit 2.0 clean tech. We want to bring it here. Detroit doesn't have to win again. And if you take care of your people and you pay them well, they can decide to unionize or not. That's not the issue. And somebody asked me, hey, Tony, what's it like to be a CEO and a founder and an investor and a bit crazy dude? What do you do every day when you run a company? So I was like, it's a lot of fighting. It's a lot of positive violence. Most people don't like violence. I just don't like negative violence. I love violence as long as it's positive, because something gets done. And so I was like, well, instead of doing it, I just shoved a bunch of clips together to show you what it's like to be me, or to be somebody like me, or many of you. And you may get a kick out of this, and you may not.
Years ago, everybody knew the Earth was the center of the universe. 500 years ago, everybody knew the Earth was flat. And 15 minutes ago, you knew that people were alone on this planet. Imagine what we would know tomorrow.
We could change the way we do business.
We'll change it. What exactly does that mean?
My plan is to adopt a new style.
Your style is unorthodox.
I can't get on the fight right hand no more.
What's cat? There ain't no cats. There's no cats.
It's impossible. Let's try the impossible.
Jet airplanes. You know anything about jets?
No, but it sounds expensive.
Oh, it will be. We gotta get started. This technology is gonna change the world.
We gotta find a way to make this fit into the hole for this. Using nothing but that.
No one has ever done anything like this.
That's why it's going to work.
I don't care what anything was designed to do. I care about what it can do.
So use what you got and get me some results.
This cannot be a game of common men.
because common men go nowhere. You have to be uncommon.
Does it get any better than this, right? I'm living the dream.
That's what every day is like. I'm saying no, get it done, find a way, I don't care, and I'm living the dream. And I look like that guy someday. So I get it. And we're grateful to be in Oklahoma. We're gonna work hard to make y'all proud. And we'd like to thank y'all for allowing us today to come here and share with you and say it's not about oil versus electric. It's about America winning. Thank you all.
Ken Neva's going to come up real quick for a public service announcement, I'll call it, I think, about next step. Yeah.
Okay, very quickly, the last item on our agenda or the next item on our agenda is the board's annual business session. And all meeting participants are invited to attend. The board members will have assigned seating in the prominent U-shaped table. So please see a member of our staff or assistant. Let's take a quick break and try to reconvene in Oklahoma Station 6 through 8 down at the back where we've been before. And this will begin by 3:30. This session.